Good afternoon, future LPNs. It is August 1st today when I'm taping this, and you graduate at the end of the month. You are almost there. Congratulations. As you've noticed, this PowerPoint for Chapter 18 is lengthy. So, lucky for you, I have flipped it over to slide number 21 to begin, because there are not questions on your test about finding a job that you love. So just wanted to put that out there. There's some important information in this chapter about finding a job that you love, but not test questions about that. The only thing I will say about the first 20 slides in this PowerPoint, it does talk about different nursing positions, and you have to consider your personality traits. And a lot of you have already worked in healthcare, so that will help you in choosing your position. I know some of you have different dreams. Some of you have dreams about becoming a hospice nurse. Some of you have dreams about working in L&D. A few of you are wanting to go on and further your education and become a CRNA. I know your goals are all over the place, but just keep in mind just some facts here. If you're working in a hospital setting, of course you're going to be working 12-hour shifts. It is going to be extremely busy, but you're going to get to practice a lot of your skills that you've learned, and a lot of your skills that you have not learned yet and had the opportunity to practice. You are going to have a lot of benefits from working possibly in a hospital setting, maybe 401k, paid time off, things like that. And when I became a nurse, I liked having the patient in my setting. I will go ahead and tell you I'm a little OCD. I like things clean, I like things orderly, and so when I first became a nurse, that was a comfort level for me, at least if patients were in a hospital setting or even in long-term care. I had more control about their environment. And that may sound a little crazy, but that was important to me. Versus home health care and hospice. I think I told you guys I did a little riding around with a home health care nurse, and I didn't particularly like going into people's homes because of the environments that we were in. And I probably would do better about that now, but at the time I just knew that was not the place for me. Plus, you have to feel confident about working on your own. When you work in a hospital setting, you have more teamwork involved. When you're working out on your own, possibly in home health or maybe working with a nursing assistant, there is more independence and a feeling of being on your own. So just something to take into consideration. If you go to work in a doctor's office, hey, you're going to be dealing with a physician or nurse practitioner or physician assistant constantly. So they can be demanding sometimes. You may have a physician that you're working with who has a lovely personality and is not going to be arrogant at all or demanding, but it could be. So that's something to take into consideration, but they do have usually good hours off on the weekends. I have a good friend who works at MMC, and she really likes it because of the good hours. Loves her coworkers, so that's something to think about. I know some of you guys are interested in school nursing. Of course, you have to like children, and the children have parents. So you're going to have to answer to parents also. So just something to keep in mind. Even with pediatrics, I enjoyed pediatric nursing the times that I have done it. You guys know I've done it mostly with babies. But you do have that parent standing over you, asking questions, very concerned. So just something to keep in mind there. If you are interested in working in the OR, surgery, labor and delivery, you usually don't start out in those places as an LPN. You usually are going to have to transfer over after furthering your education. But if you're interested in that, go ahead and try to get a job in maybe postpartum, mother baby, maybe just on a surgical floor to gain some experience with that. And it is on your test, but most LPNs, of course, are used in long-term care. Yes, there is a question about that on your test, and that is true, but it is not the only place that LPNs are used. So let's go ahead and start looking here at slide number 21, professional nursing organizations. Advantages of belonging to one of these. They help you have a voice in the future of nursing, meeting nursing leaders, learning about current issues, educational opportunities, serving on committees. And I have some in particular that I want you to look at that will be on your test. Actually, they're on this slide. The National League for Nursing, National Association for Practical Nurse Education and Service, and the National Federation of Licensed Practical Nurses. The National League for Nursing sets the standards that advance excellence and innovation in nursing education. And I'm going to email out a study guide to you guys before you take the test that will have that definition on there. The National Association for Practical Nurse Education and Service, a bullet point here says that some benefits are networking, education, and insurance discounts. And the NAPNES protects the practice, education, and regulation of the LPN and student LPN. And the National Federation of LPNs is the official voice of the LPN and is a policy-making body. Okay, let's go on over to, I did want to mention here under continuing education, currently for Tennessee, you are required to have 5 contact hours every 2 years. Your nurse manager should keep a file for you that has these certificates in your file, but you need to also complete a file. I have never been asked to show my CEUs or contact hours in my whole lifetime of nursing, but I could get a letter from the state of Tennessee Board of Nursing asking me to show my continuing education. I would be in a little bit of trouble right now, to tell you the truth, because I don't have my contact hours up to date, but you are supposed to have 5 contact hours every 2 years. And also keep a folder that has your evaluations, thank you letters from patients, always keep those. When you are asked to set goals at your facility, have a folder that has all of that type of thing in it. Any workshops you've attended with a certificate, in-service training, all of that counts as continuing education. I'm not sure where these page numbers came from, guys. They're wrong, and I guess it's a different edition of the book, so just ignore any of these page numbers. As far as in-servicing, getting your contact hours, you know, your employer may or may not pick up the fee for that. I've asked Ms. Reimer before if she would send us to an in-service in Hawaii, but she didn't really seem like she was too interested in that. But your CEUs often teach complex nursing skills such as IV therapy and physical assessment. Your NAPNES supplies a long-term care certification that you may be interested in obtaining. Also has a pharmacology certification, and your NFLPN has an IV therapy certification course that you may be asked to do by your facility, so that you will be able to do some IV therapies, medications, administering blood products, TPN possibly, but you know, that's really up to the state you're working in, the Nurse Practice Act, and the policy of your hospital. But you may very well want to take an IV therapy certification course. There's also a gerontology certification course, managed care certification, and of course, we have information here at TCAT about going on and finishing to obtain your RN degree. Certainly ask any one of us instructors if you're interested in that. I know you had a speaker come and talk a little bit about that, and that, of course, the TCAT has the program with ETSU, and there's certainly other programs available too. You will not be asked any questions about career ladder programs, but these are just different career ladder programs that are available for educational mobility for nurses. Okay, let's move over to this. What's the average age of an LPN? According to this, it was 40s. Okay. Sam has graduated from LPN school, passed his boards. Where does the need for LPNs continue to grow? Long-term care facilities. Janelle has her LPN and wants to become certified in IV therapy. What agency offers this additional education? NFLPN. Janelle has decided to take a position in home health. All of the following qualities will be helpful to her except sympathy. I didn't really like that question that much, but which of the following is the only national organization made up of LPNs, SPNs, and affiliated members? It is the NFLPN. Okay, using interpersonal styles to your benefit. There are not test questions about that. It's just some good reading material to read through and looking at your own type of personality style. It's very interesting to read through this section in your book. Analytical types, driver types. Hey, we have all kinds of different personalities in our classroom. Amiable types. Hey, that's me. Expressive types. So just some good, interesting reading material there. Networking. Okay, smart networking of influential people in your school and clinical work experiences. This can help you find a job. So also can help you get references. When you're networking, you can network within your classroom community, church community, current work community, clubs that you're in, anything like that. And this can be, you know, some of you have lived in the same area for a long time, and you may have individuals that are willing to act as references for you. Instructors, yes, I have been asked to write references for students. Be glad to do that. Managers, supervisors, people that you have worked with make a great reference person for you. School placement personnel, maybe the guidance counselor at your high school. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. Let people know you're looking for a job. Ask for job leads, names of contacts, family, friends. We already said that. Also looking in nursing journals, school alumni office, and looking on the internet. I don't think that's too much fun, but in today's world, that's how it happens. Now, since we brought up the word internet, okay, I know that we live in a very social media society. So right now, since you guys are about to start applying for jobs, you may have, a couple of you have already done that, I've heard. You need to clean up your social media, okay? So go in, and if you think there's any pictures on your Instagram, Facebook, etc., that would not be becoming for a future employer to see, get rid of it. Yes, they do look at those. I do that as well. If I am going to be associated with someone, heck, even if my husband hires someone, I'll go look at their Facebook picture, or my son or my daughter's employer. I do that. Everybody does that. So you might want to take your beautiful or handsome nursing picture you just had made and make that your profile picture, so that you will look like a very competent nurse in your picture. Might be a good idea, but just cleaning up your social media, very important. They do look that over to sometimes see what kind of person you are. So just watch out for that. You also might want to go to the settings area on your Facebook. I'm not sure there is one on Instagram. I guess there is, but I have mine set so that I have to approve anything that goes on my Facebook. I worked with a lot of nurses who like to run around and take pictures, and they just were not careful. They might get a baby in the background of a picture or a baby security bracelet. I just didn't like the situation. Also, I never wanted a patient to think, oh my gosh, there's my nurse Pam, and on her Facebook page it's got pictures of her goofing off at the nurse's station. I never wanted that on mine. I think there's a time and place for everything. Yes, we took silly Halloween pictures when we were dressed up and things like that, but I have a setting on my page so that a picture cannot go on there unless I approve it. And you'll notice I have not asked to be your Facebook friends yet. I will after you graduate. I just think it's important to maintain a professional demeanor. Sometimes, yes, you can be Facebook friends with your fellow employees after you go to work, but just be careful about what goes on your Facebook and HIPAA laws and that sort of thing. Just want to throw that out there. Okay, a school placement office can help you with seeking a job. We do have a lot of employers who start calling TCAT because they know you guys are getting ready to graduate. It has started happening, and sometimes based on your specific personality types, we think that person may be great for that job, so we may come individually and talk to you about that. There is a lot in this chapter 18 about interviewing. A lot of good charts about practice questions for going through an interview, how to answer questions that are placed to you during an interview. I really like page 295 in your book, sample interview questions and answers. And all of those are great examples, so be sure and read through those. This slide talks about watching out for the tone of your voice. Yes, absolutely important. When you do go to an interview, let's say that you are going to work for St. Thomas Hospital. So find out what you can about the facility about which you're going to work. I assume they're still affiliated with the Catholic Church. I may be wrong. So, that may just be something that you keep in mind when you're going for your interview. Find out the name of the person who does the hiring or influences hiring. Do not wait for an ad to appear before applying to an employer. For example, if you have interest in working for St. Thomas Labor and Delivery, don't wait for them to place an ad. Go ahead and do some investigation and find out who the nurse manager is and send her a copy of your resume. Send her a letter. She may not have a position open, but she certainly will have your information for when she does. And you think she's going to lose it in a shuffle of papers on her desk? Yes. So you may want to check in with that person every 3 to 6 months and see if a job has become available. Use a brief, to-the-point letter accompanied by a resume. And with clients, of course, displaying a positive attitude. Seek the supervisor's input on how to begin your career. Work on building relationships with peers and key people where you work. And get involved in facility and professional organizations. This slide talks about the hidden job market. So, for example, you might not think of looking at a state or federal government website, but that could be a possibility of finding, for example, maybe a school nurse job, volunteer activities, professional associations. Okay, resumes. You are, of course, as we said, we're going to have to put together a resume. It's going to be part of your portfolio for your test grade for PVR. And you do want to develop 2 versions. When you do develop your resume for us that you're putting in your portfolio, also place it somewhere on your computer or phone so that you'll have an electronic version as well. Focus on your work skills, education experiences, and qualifications. Use short bulleted sentences. Be specific but concise in describing your experience, and be honest. And you have a sample resume on page 292 in your PVR book. And as I mentioned to you guys before, when you're making up your resume, a lot of you guys are very young. I mean, I know some of you guys that we have in class are 20, 21 years old. So certainly you're going to be going back to possibly high school, you know, awards that you received in high school. If you had a perfect attendance award, if you were voted most likely to succeed, you know, something like that. I was voted most courteous girl in my high school senior class. I had that on my resume until I was like 40 years old. I worked it for a long time. So, you know, something like that, put it on your resume. If you speak another language, if you speak Spanish, if you are fluent in Latin, if you know how to do sign language, you can be an interpreter, you know, things like that could be very important for your position. I had a student last year, male student, who was from another country, and he did not have a longevity of having any employment here in the United States, but he had a longevity of having a lot of volunteer work with his church. So I said his name, I'll pretend his name is Jim. His name is not Jim. But I said, Jim, you know, there's nothing in your portfolio about your past work experience. And he said, well, really all I've done since I've gotten here is work with my church. I said, well, what kind of things did you do with your church? Well, I was president of blah, blah, blah committee, and I did a lot of volunteer work for food pantry. You know, those are things that you could put in your resume as well. Also, I said this before to you guys, clubs that you've been a member of. If you are a member of a pickleball team, you know, something like that. If you don't have a lot of work experience, something that shows that you were loyal to something, you showed up when you were supposed to, and it was important to you, and maybe you served on a committee about that. That can be important as well. It says the length of the resume is maximum 2 pages, although 1 page is typical for a new graduate. Absolutely no spelling or grammatical errors. Copy the resume onto white paper if you do fax it. I know that's not as popular now, but they might ask you to do that. If anyone asks me to fax anything nowadays, I typically just say I do not have the ability to do that. I can scan that for you, you know, it's just not very common now. An uncluttered, balanced design makes the resume easier to read. Electronic resumes are the #1 choice among employers. They should have no italics, underlining, bold, hollow bullets, or other formatting. I'm not entirely sure about that. I guess it just does not transfer or send well, but I actually did not know that. Focus on your work skills, experiences, and qualifications. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Oh, I think we already said that. Okay, moving on. Do not include such items as reason for leaving past job, salary requirement, personal photographs, personal data, age, race, religion, etc. on that. They're actually not legally allowed to ask how old you are, but certainly you can put the date that you graduated TCAT and things like that. That's perfectly fine. And I did want to mention when I was reading through your interview question that you answered for me, really good job on those. I really appreciated you guys doing that. But when you are answering your interview question, I think someone did bring up like a bad nurse manager they've had before. Try to focus on something positive rather than bring up something negative that happened in your past. Focus on your positive attributes, your good qualities. When you talk about that you think teamwork is important, just talk about the reasons why you think teamwork is important. And maybe not that at your past work there wasn't good teamwork, something like that. But bringing up the positive is always good instead of bringing up the negative. Cover letters. Oh, cover letters drive me crazy, but you have to do them. There is an example of a cover letter in your book on page 293, sample cover letter. Does need to be included with each resume. And also proper spelling, grammar. Make sure you look up the person's name, even if you have to look on the possible employer's website, Google it, whatever. Find out exactly how to spell their name correctly. And thanking them for taking your resume, talking a few brief points about your good qualities. You're hardworking, organized, easy to get along with. I can help you individually with cover letter if you would like, but it should be one page. It should be an original and never photocopied. What I think, since a couple of years ago I had to go through this, make you a cover letter and just keep it in a file at home. And every time you apply to a different job, then you can just tweak it just a little bit. You can go ahead and put your good attributes in there. And then change the address to the person, of course, that you're applying to. And if you are applying to a job in long-term care, just talk about your love of caring for the elderly. And you could bring up a very short statement about, caring for your grandmother that passed away a year ago, something like that. But it does need to be brief. And it's recommended here you paste your resume to the end of the cover letter. That really depends on the website that you're dealing with. A lot of them have a place for a cover letter and a place for a resume. Okay, if you do get an interview, doing a follow-up phone call is a very good idea. Go ahead and try to do it that day or the next day. You may very well be leaving a voice message, but thank you, Mr. Smith, for interviewing me yesterday. I really appreciate your time. I enjoyed hearing about NHC, and I've always heard wonderful things about your company. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you so much. It could be as simple as that. Also, you can send them a follow-up email a couple of days later if you didn't hear anything, or maybe even one day later. But always a good idea to do follow-up phone call and email. Okay, this Maggie person tells jokes. Let's forget some important details. She is an amiable type personality. Okay, answers to application questions. Okay, answering questions truthfully. Reasons for leaving. You don't necessarily have to put that on your resume. If you are asked the question, just point blank, if you're doing an interview, you don't have to give them a number of reasons for why you left your past job, but lucky for you, you just finished LPN school, so that's the reason for leaving your previous job. But as I said, try to focus on the positive. Employment gaps, you do need to state a reason why you have an employment gap. It could be due to taking care of a sick family member, moving, having a child, something like that, fathering a child. In preparation for an interview, you do need to be sure in preparation for an interview to bring a copy of your nursing license with you. Bring a copy of your driver's license with you. Be sure and have your portfolio with you that has your updated immunizations with you as well, and have that with you just in case so you can easily flip to it. Many of your doctor's offices have an app that you can get that information quickly. I know you can get your immunization files from Ms. Rojas or Ms. Reimer. I possibly may be able to get my hands on them as well. And okay, well, we'll end here. Thank you for your attention.